recording that we're doing.
No.
You are.
Really?
Yeah. You
Wow.
should feel honored. I don't know if you'll be the first release or not, but I'm trying to get some like episodes banked up.
That was
we
in
put
the
out.
contract though. I get the first release.
right next to your pay rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to. I haven't even announced it on social media at the time we're recording this. I haven't announced it that I was doing. Oh, dang. Well, I guess we're doing audio only. That's okay. I got to figure out the GoPro stuff. For those of you listening, I've got a GoPro that is set up, but it's a little finicky on recording audio, so or video. That's all right. Yeah. So what's going on with you? How's it been?
Do you want to?
No, because I think it's going to keep doing that.
Okay.
I made it like 20 minutes yesterday, and it shut off, and then it said it was overheated, and it felt very hot to the touch.
Interesting.
So I might start recording to get like a clip. I can post like a mini thing on online to promote it later, but we'll go from there. So yeah, how you been?
Good. Doing well.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see that you're doing this. I think it's great.
Yeah. We kind of talked about it already, but I'm debating on whether to do like 2 podcasts of like just first responder stuff, have people like you or like invite the sheriff on or like, people like that, like local leaders to talk about stuff, or just do one podcast and like have it under one umbrella. Not entirely sure what I should do.
I think it's interesting because you're in a position where you interact with the community on a couple different levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paramedic by day and comedian by night.
Yeah.
No, but so who are you trying to reach, and if that's everybody, I don't know. You have to figure that out. If it's 2 different series, if it's one series on the same show, I don't know. But
yeah,
it's just you. My point is you have a unique audience.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah, like it could be beneficial to have like 2, because some people might be interested in just the comedy and not the first responder stuff, and vice versa. And also, I think it'd be a little weird bleeding the 2 together, because like some of the comics that would come on probably don't have that much of a filter. So
that's true.
I don't want to be too unprofessional, but
I don't know. I think I'm not sure you have to decide right now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna record and we'll debate later. Or find out later. For those of you who are listening, this is my guest for today, Travis Howe. He's a EMS director at town of Lake George EMS. He also happens to be my supervisor. We've worked together. I've known you. You taught my EMT class. Actually at Lake George Fire.
I always forget about that.
Yeah, all those years ago. It was 2017. Wow.
Yeah, that was the first class that I taught as a solo instructor. But of course we had good friend of ours, Jack Timms, was in there, and I forget who else, but we had several instructors in there.
A bunch. It was like
which was good. And that was a good mix. That was a big class. I forget that that's where we first connected.
Mm-hmm. All those years ago, right? Literally right next to my apartment. It's kind of come full circle.
It's funny.
But yeah, we had Mickey Guy, Steve
Emerson,
a
couple
Jack
of
Timms,
interns.
Yeah. Simon Gardner, I think, was in that class a little bit.
Yep.
That was a rowdy class. It's funny, like coming back here and being a member of Lake George Fire now, like years after having taken that class, and like kind of gotten to know some of the guys in the class, and now I get to work with them is pretty fun. But yeah. So what's your role with the town? Like when you kind of introduce yourself, give like a little bio background and
sure.
what you do now.
Yeah. Well, I've been in emergency services. I've volunteered or worked in emergency services for 27 years now. So I grew up in Minerva, up in Essex County, and when I was younger, I used to go to the firehouse a lot because my father was a member, my brother was a member, my sister at one time was a member of like the fire department rescue squad. It was a combined agency, fire and EMS, all volunteer. And I sort of joined as a junior member, and then when I was 15 turning 16, I took my first EMS course, which was certified first responder. And that was in Pottersville. And my instructor was Mary Sprano. She was in Schroon Lake EMS, and she was a state instructor. But anyway, so I've been in EMS and the fire service a long time. And from there, when I got out of high school, I started working EMS full time. And so back in 2004, West Glens Falls EMS started to bring on paid staff because their call volume was such that volunteers were having a hard time answering calls during the day. So they would staff during the day, and I started there more or less full time. No benefits or anything at the time. Just 36 hours a week, probably that sort of deal. And so I did that there, and eventually became sort of like kind of like a pseudo supervisor, but I was handling payroll and scheduling and things of that nature. And then that sort of I got connected with a couple of people who offered me a job at the Regional EMS Council. And I was working under the director at the time. And then before I knew it, a couple years later, I became the interim director, and I was the director of the Mountain Lakes region for, 11, 12 years, something like that. So throughout that time span, I also became a certified instructor. Most of those years, I stayed involved in the volunteer fire service as well. And I live in Indian Lake now, up in Hamilton County. So I'm a member of that fire department, and probably don't give as much time as I should, but I try to give a little bit of time there. And that's what I do from a volunteer perspective. But anyway, eventually made a choice to was really blessed to be offered a job here at the town of Lake George when the town started their EMS service in 2022. So became the director of EMS here, and what are we? We're 3.5 years into that, going on 4 years, and I think things are going well here in the town. And I say it's a blessing. Going from the nonprofit world, which is tough, to the municipal world, it took a little bit to get used to, but things are really great, from a municipal government perspective. And then on top of that, I love Lake George. So it's just great to work here.
This is a really fun place to work. I think it's by far been my favorite area to work in. There's just like a lot of diversity of calls and events and all kinds of stuff, really.
Yeah, diversity of people.
Yeah.
We have year-round residents, and we have sort of part-time residents, and we have an influx of all kinds of people. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at the background that we have to look at every day going to work. And, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Yeah.
So what's your current role as the EMS director? What does that entail? What's your day-to-day look like?
Well, I'm the EMS department is one of several departments in the town. And so I fall in line in town government and answer to Vinny Crescido is our town supervisor. and of course the town board as well.
Mm-hmm.
And my day-to-day is really just anything and everything of just keeping the EMS department afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Afloat and advancing, hopefully. So, it could be ordering supplies. It could be handling billing issues. It could be ordering uniforms. It could be handling, vehicle issues. So it's really maintaining all of that. But probably the most important aspect is taking care of, or trying to take care of, the people who work and under me
Mm-hmm.
within that structure. And I say and under me, but we all work together as a pretty good little unit
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't know, we have just over 20 employees. So, that's the personnel end of it is probably the most important. Just making sure that people have what they need and trying to do the best that we can to take care of people. That's
Mm-hmm.
super important to me. To make sure that they're comfortable. Because you do it. You're at the station, and you're even on a regular shift as a full-time employee. You're doing 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's extended, and that's a long time to be away from home.
Yeah.
And I try to use the resources I have to try to take care of people, whatever that means. If it's we need a new toaster, then we get a new toaster. If it means, we went through a period of time where we had to replace furniture and do different things just from a comfort perspective. So it's doing all that. It's taking care of our people, and taking care of our resources so that those resources and assets are ready to take care of the community and visitors.
Yeah. Which has been quite the undertaking, I'm sure. There's been a lot of projects over the past few years, at least while I've been there, to kind of, make things more comfortable, have a better setup at the station, advance our services to be able to offer more. There's been a lot of like small day-to-day things, and then a lot of bigger picture items too that have been happening.
It is. I mean, probably the toughest aspect is, if you go to, so we're on most of our full-time people, you're an odd duck because you bounce around all over the place. But like most of our full-time employees work 24 hours on, and then they're off for 72 hours. And so they're on a rotation, 24 on, 72 off. And we're a fairly small operation in the grand scheme of things. So the most we have is 2 crews on at one time, typically. For the big events, we staff up. But it's it's when you're rolling out projects, or you're putting in advancements or new equipment or whatever it is, it's a little bit of a unique challenge to, like, we never really capture everybody at the same time.
Sure.
And then throw into the mix the part-time employees who, thank goodness for them, the people that pick up 12, 24, 36 hours a month to help kind of fill in. We never really see them at the same time. So, rolling things out can be a challenge at times, which, we've seen with a couple different projects.
Yeah. Especially, you talked about the 24/72 schedule. It's a unique ball game because nobody's ever there at the same time like other departments, or like other departments in the town. So even when it comes to like our annual like sexual harassment training or stuff like that, we've had to kind of be creative in how we do that. So a lot of that like turns to online training, so people can do it in their own time or their next shift or whatever. And then when we do like hands-on training, you just have to span it out over a few days and hope everybody gets it done.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be, every once I've been actually thinking about it for this fall is can we get everybody together for a couple days? But, that's when you bring people in for extra stuff like that, that's, a budgetary consideration, and that can be tough.
Yeah.
But and then of course everybody has, you know, the 3 days that they're off here, they may be working someplace else, or they may be, you know, running a podcast, or so, you know, that can be tough for sure.
Yeah. I've had 3 days off. This is my third day off, and I almost don't know what to do with myself. I've been like working a lot on like setting up podcast stuff and doing open mics and stuff like that, keeping busy, but it feels a little weird, especially coming off of summer months, because it's just so busy for us, you know. But it's been nice. It's been a nice little time off break. So
yeah, you can tell, you know, already, like the fall can still be, you know, decently busy for us, but like we see that drop already. You know, it's just
pretty quickly after car show. Like,
yeah,
car show ended, and that next week was just
right.
a different feel. Like there was far less people in town.
The weekends still get busy.
Yeah.
If the weather's good, like the weekends through October will be busy, but during the week it's, you know, there's not much going on out there.
Yeah. You tell kids are back in school, and there's not as many families coming up for vacation. But so one of the bigger projects we've done more recently was getting a new ambulance. I don't think people realize how much work goes into doing that. I certainly haven't. I've seen it from afar before, but I've been a little closer to this project and talking with you about it. But when you kind of talk through the process of what that actually looks like, and issues with like ordering and getting an ambulance.
Yeah, well, we were just talking. I had a budget meeting this morning, and we were just talking about ambulances, and we're in this weird time where emergency services, and actually the fire department here has experienced this. There is a new. How old's the fire truck that's being replaced? The tower unit.
I want to say like late 80s, early 90s.
Right. So it's really past its lifespan, whether that's through, you know, NFPA standards or whatever. And I know there's been a lot of mechanical issues, but anyway, so there's a new tower ladder unit that's on order, and it's been on order for like a year and a half.
Oh wow, yeah.
and now it's still. I think they said it's delayed a little bit.
I think so.
Again.
Yeah.
So
it's supposed to be November, but it might be beginning of the year, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, it can take years now to get apparatus, whether that's fire or EMS. The fire side's probably a little bit worse.
Yeah.
But on top of that, so the lead time is what it is. It's you know, takes forever to get apparatus, but the price, the cost increases. It's been crazy. You know, so we to give you a little bit of an idea, I helped spec out and build and purchase an ambulance in Minerva. Okay, this is when I was probably 18, 19 years old, and when that was delivered, so this is probably 2001. That ambulance was roughly $110,000. The ambulance that we just purchased is $250,000. So, and you can build an ambulance easily. You could spend $350,000, right? With this ambulance, we purchased what we needed. You know, we got a little bit shorter of a patient compartment, but we got 4-wheel drive, and it's not a bigger chassis with a lot of bells and whistles. I mean, it's a Ford F-350 chassis, 4-wheel drive, and you know that's going to serve us well. It's our first 4-wheel drive ambulance. That's going to serve us well with some of the driveways that we have here, especially you know close to the lake. But that's the first challenge is the cost and the lead time. So we're already looking at the next one, and we took delivery in July. Well, by the time we take delivery of the next one in late 2026 or early 2027, that one's $270,000. So that's the first big obstacle is just the budgetary aspect of it.
Yeah,
and then the process of just figuring out what you want, what fits your budget, and then of course waiting for it. but the people at the town hall, whether it's the town board, the town supervisor, the town clerk, the comptroller, like there's a lot that goes into making sure everything's in order.
Mm-hmm.
So with this particular ambulance, we had to bond some money. And so that's a process. You know, there has to be an estoppel notice, essentially a public notice. So people, the taxpayers, are aware of what's going on. And then there has to be a public hearing held before you borrow that money. And so a lot administratively goes into that end. And then during the early ordering process, now with this ambulance, it was already being built. So we made a couple of changes to meet our needs, but not a lot. And, you know, but that's part of the process. And then, you know, there's lettering, you know, how is it going to be striped and lettered? And then of course, you were part of the process in going to, I think we dropped off an ambulance and we had to pick up the new one. And, you know, for us, it was bad timing because it was just before 4th of July, which, you know, we knew we needed 2 ambulances. So, you know, we're in this rush to drive out to Syracuse to pick up this new ambulance. And then once you get it here, you got to deal with the DMV and you have to, you know, get equipment on it and supplies on it and make sure everybody, you know, goes through a process that they're at least comfortable driving it. And for us, that was super rushed this time. Sure. But yeah, I'm rambling now, but there's a lot that goes into it. And depending on the timing for us, depending on the time of year, it can be like, you know, if we don't do that again in July, I'll be really happy.
Yes. Because summertime is peak season in Lake George. That's where we most frequently have numerous crews on. We tend to run our busiest calls or busiest call volume, I should say. So it was kind of a burden having to take an ambulance out just for that.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking because you have to make sure that, you know, your assets are ready to go for that influx of people. And, you know, in that case, leading up to 4th of July, boy, in hindsight, you know, we were dispatched to 17 calls, right? 17, I think it was 17 on July 4th. I mean, goodness, if we didn't have 2 ambulances, it would have been rough.
Yeah, would have been.
It was rough.
It was rough anyway. It would have been a lot more rough, for sure. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna start this back up again. See if we can get. There we go. For those listening, I just turned my camera on again. We'll see if that works. So one of the bigger, another big project for this year is body worn cameras, which is something pretty new or very new to this area. It's gotten like a lot of feedback, mixed reviews. So I kind of want to dive into that a little bit, just talk about it. I guess starting, like, what was kind of what made you interested in body cameras?
Well, you're spot on. I mean, it's definitely controversial, right? Mm-hmm. But body cameras, you know, 10 years ago, nobody knew what a body camera was. And, you know, the manufacturers, they were making these things. But, you know, probably over the last 10 years, law enforcement body-worn cameras has just exploded, right? And, you know, I think we all know sort of societal issues or events that sort of led to that. And part of it, like on the law enforcement side, you know, it's probably, you know, it's accountability, but it's also there to protect officers who do their job and do their job well. And so what we've seen really probably over the past 5 years, it's really starting to take off is body-worn cameras in EMS. And I became interested in this several years ago. I actually had a rep from Axon and a gentleman from Texas. He was involved in an agency in Texas that used body-worn cameras, and he spoke at a conference that I ran. And I was starting to take notice of it, and one of the things I tried to do with this conference was to bring new ideas and thoughts to the forefront. And that's when I really started to dive into it. So several years ago, I've been thinking about this. And the benefits to EMS are similar to law enforcement, right? So the first thing that people need to know is what we deal with in EMS. And we encounter, I would say 95% or more of the people that we encounter are great people. Whether it's certainly, I mean, our community is a phenomenal community. We get this influx of visitors and whatnot into our community, and sometimes we run into people who aren't so nice. So that's kind of first and foremost, is we do encounter people who are not nice, who are at the least, rude, who sometimes try to take a swing, or they try to kick our people, or they're successful in doing something like that to our people. That's happened here. I know you had a call, an experience where a gentleman pulled a knife. So a body-worn camera doesn't magically turn on and protect our people, our paramedics and our EMTs, from these threats, but it's been proven that if people know they're being recorded, they're less apt to do that.
Sure.
But the other thing is, if they do cause harm or try to cause harm to our people, we now have footage of that. And so that can aid in the prosecution of somebody. There's a story this year in Kansas City where a firefighter paramedic was stabbed to death in an ambulance. These things happen. Assaults on EMS personnel, it happens all over the country. And it's happened to us. It's happened to our people.
And I think the numbers are rising. Like, we're seeing more and more instances of that happening, right?
Yeah. Well, we have a serious, not going to dive into this little ball pit of fun, but we, as EMS providers, we're seeing a lot more mental health issues. Like mental health calls, way up. So that's part of it. Sure. So they're there sort of to protect our people. So here's the other aspect of it, as far as protecting our people. If our people are accused of doing something, okay, they either did or didn't do it, and the footage doesn't lie. So I know that we have really good people. I'm not just saying that because we're on the What's Going On podcast. Yeah. We have really good people, and I know that our people do a good job. Our people, they're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but we do a really good job. We treat people with respect. We treat them with dignity, and we take really good care of them. We provide good care. If somebody says, paramedic Caleb White did something to me, or treated me in a certain way, or didn't do what he was supposed to, whatever the case is, whatever the accusation is, we can now defend our people. And so we're sort of what I consider phase 2 of this rollout of body-worn cameras, and we've already seen the benefit of having that footage. Can't go into great detail, but there's 2 cases in particular that it's been proven that our people were in the right, or that they provided good care when they were accused of not doing so.
Right.
So it's exonerated our people twice. It's protected the town from potential liability. And so that's part of it, that whole protection type piece. There's been some high profile cases across the country where actually paramedics have been charged with murder and manslaughter because they did or did not do something. And what happens is, in this one particular case in Colorado, the defense attorneys for the paramedics, they did not have body-worn cameras from the paramedics. They weren't wearing cameras. There was footage from bystanders. There was footage from law enforcement. There was, I can't remember if there were street cameras or not, but there was all this footage from all these different entities and people, but EMS wasn't able to tell their complete side of the story. An objective account of what happened between those paramedics and that patient. And that did not do them any favors. In fact, it hindered the defense attorney's ability to defend them. And that was a ugly case. So there's that protection piece, the protection from liability, protection from these false accusations or whatever the case is. And then the other piece to that is sort of what I just touched on, is people don't realize that we're on camera all the time. And so if we go to somebody's home, like, if I went up and down this street and looked, probably, at least half the houses have Ring cameras or some sort of cameras inside or outside or both. That is a very common thing now, right? I have 2 cameras at my house. There's one on my front porch and there's one in my garage. Like sort of one on each entrance. Like, so if EMS came to my house tonight, God forbid, I hope they don't, like, they're going to be on camera, right? If we go to a call over at Price Chopper, we're on camera. If we go to a call at 3 a.m. to Canada Street for somebody and law enforcement's involved, guess what? We're on camera. If we go to a car accident, there's probably bystanders filming us. Like this, we're on camera all the time. What I am not comfortable with is everybody else being able to have their best interests in mind and protect themselves, and we can't. Right? Or the ability for bystanders to manipulate footage. Or, you know what I mean? So,
especially if you're only seeing like one clip of an entire incident, you just don't get the full picture, and you're not seeing the perspective of the first responders that are there on scene. I mean, there's been times where I've been in homes and family members will start talking to me through a camera system, and we're like, "Oh, I didn't even know you were watching the whole time." Not that I was doing anything wrong, but they have a different perspective of what I'm seeing. They have a different view of what I'm seeing, so they might not understand that I'm choosing a certain treatment plan or want to move this person rapidly because they've got a serious medical condition. And they just don't see or understand that. So, I mean, having, as a provider who is wearing these cameras and seeing the benefit of it, it's huge to be able to have that recording and, be able to defend if I need to. The camera just shut off again, so that's what, if you're hearing the beeping. But another aspect of this is, like, from a quality of care perspective, I've seen a huge, just in my own practice, I've seen a huge ability to improve myself as a provider having these cameras. If you're familiar with the Axon service, you're able to go in and see recordings that are on your camera, which is beneficial for a few reasons. Like, one, I go back through as I'm writing my chart, and I'll tend to watch that video so that I can get very specific times of when I pushed medications or did an intervention. I can get very specific times and quotes of my patients. So instead of just kind of putting in like a chief complaint of kind of the general idea of what they said, I can give the exact sentence of what they said. And it saves me from having to write all that stuff down during my patient care. I can go in afterwards and see it and get the exact times, which is awesome. It also helps me see where things I could do better, right? Like if I, especially on critical calls, I can go back through and review and see the footage and be like, okay, I could have, set this up a little bit better, or I could have asked these questions a little bit better. I could have been more thorough in my, history taking, stuff like that. And it's just those little things that really add up over time. It's the same reason I record all my sets for comedy. Like,
Sure.
I'm not going to post them. I could bomb on stage,
Right.
but I pick up little things over time, and it just makes me a better comedian, or the body camera footage makes me a better provider, which is exciting. Like I love that opportunity to review and self-reflect. And I think that's where some people that have hesitations, I think, are hesitant to do that. Like maybe they don't want to see themselves on camera or they don't want to see themselves mess up. But medicine is the practice of medicine. Like if you hear doctors, they're practicing medicine. It's the same with EMS. We're never the best we can be. There's always areas we can improve and be better. And I think this is one tool we can use to do it.
Yeah. Well, I like all that. That you're talking about quality assurance, quality improvement, right? Which is, that's big for us for those reasons. So it's there for all those reasons I talked about. It's there for the reasons you just talked about. But to expand on the quality assurance, quality improvement thing and education, we can use the footage for exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
So any sort of high acuity and low occurrence events, we can capture those and we can use those to better our practice, right, of the medicine that we practice. So that's the other piece that really intrigued me. And we're actually in October, we're using a STEMI case that you had from the summer for the basis of education with Jack. I was just talking to him about it yesterday.
Sure.
But so for all those reasons, I guess the one thing I will say, because everything that we do, we do so in a way to protect people's privacy and dignity, right? And so I think it's important to touch on like our policy for the cameras and the way that we do things. So first of all, the cameras that we have are manufactured by Axon. We use Axon, which is a major company. I'd argue they're the leader in body-worn camera deployments across law enforcement. They have military contracts. They've been doing it a long time. They're really good at it. Yep. So we use their hardware and we use their software. And everything, if you go on a call and you have footage and it's just your normal run-of-the-mill thing, that footage is going to be stored for 120 days is what it's set at right now. After that 120 days, it automatically deletes. The way it's stored is through a completely HIPAA compliant and super secure platform called evidence.com, which is Axon's service. This company is very secure with their stuff. I mean, if you think about the amount of data that they have, I don't want to say anything's, hacker proof. There's probably countries out there trying to hack into, they can hack into all of our government stuff. I don't know. It's crazy, and it's a crazy world. But they actually contract with or employ these like professional hackers, if you will, to try to get through their firewalls and all their security stuff. Super secure. The other aspect to this is our policy, which says that our people, like you can't just get on your phone right now and go look at footage.
Right.
Nobody's looking at footage at their home computer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is like an at work through our devices sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's secure with dual, what do they call that? Dual authentication,
yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
It's a little bit of a pain to
It's
try
a
to log
huge
into your
pain.
account.
Yeah, of course it is.
You have to jump some hoops to even log in at work.
Yeah, I just had to reset my
you know.
password yesterday.
Right.
Like for the, it's like, but that tells me that, it's their system is doing what it's supposed to do. So everything's secure. There's policies about, if anybody, there's really no way for people to take and they can't extract footage from the system. They can't, everything is watermarked. You can't do anything with it. And I think that's a concern with body worn cameras is privacy and things of that nature. But really that stuff is super secure. It's not. And then the other piece is like our policy. So if you as a paramedic get called to a business and the patient's in a bathroom, a public bathroom, and there's other people around, or there's, maybe it's the locker room at the school or whatever the case is, it could be in somebody's home. Mm-hmm. You have the discretion as the provider to even turn off your camera. Right. So I think that's important. Like we're not going to be out there filming everybody. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah.
Our policy is written in a way that it gives a provider discretion. Like if at all the camera would like hinder care, like someone sees it and be like, I don't want to be recorded, like we can absolutely turn that off. If we're going into a sensitive area, like you said, like a locker room, or we're dealing with sensitive patients or cases where we don't want those things recorded, just for the patient's sake, we can turn those off then. Or maybe we do want it recorded as a sense to, again, protect ourselves. It's really up to the provider's discretion there. I think the policy reflects that pretty well, too.
I think to protect the patient, too.
Right.
And I think our department is trusted in this community. I think most people that we encounter, even if they're a visitor, again, I think everybody that we have on the team is professional and treat people with respect. But, I think anybody who's listening that is not involved in EMS, just as they would with law enforcement, right? Maybe that makes people more comfortable in dealing with law enforcement, knowing that there is a recording. Mm-hmm. There is, for whatever the case is, like it's there to protect other people too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was to go back to my thought process. That was my thought process. Mm-hmm. We are the first transporting EMS agency in the state to use them. Mm-hmm. There's been some other agencies that have trialed them. There's an agency in Saratoga County. I'm not going to name them in case they have taken a different path in the past month, but they seem to be moving ahead, using Axon as well. Yeah. But there's some prominent EMS agencies, big and small, across the country that have been doing this for quite a long time now. Yeah. And with great results. In all of those areas that we talked about, it's exonerated providers. It's been good for education, that quality assurance, quality improvement aspect. Yeah. And New Orleans EMS has actually seen a decrease in assaults and threats against EMS providers in their department. Well documented. They have a lot of great statistics down there. Since their rollout, a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So,
there's one place that should have it. It's New Orleans.
Wild down there. That's I haven't. That's one city. Well, there's a lot of cities I haven't been to, but that is one city I have not been to yet that I feel like I should probably experience at least once.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to go visit. Like I lived down there for a while, so I'm like pretty familiar with the area. But
I
is it
totally forgot about that.
It's wild. It's it's a culture shock when you move from, you grew up in Ohio, middle of cornfields, you lived in Adirondacks, and then you move there. It's just totally different. Totally different. But their EMS is very progressive and very cool to see.
Very progressive. Yeah, they've got they have their body worn camera program. They've got their whole blood program.
Mm-hmm.
Super progressive for sure.
Yeah, which is cool. You're talking about the training thing, like, just touch on this. One of the agencies, I think it was Cypress Creek, when they were doing body cameras.
Yep.
I know we've just kind of on our own initiative, some of the crews at Lake George have reviewed some of the body cam footage they posted, specifically of a cardiac arrest reversal they had, where we got to see them do an RSI. They did compressions. They did, ACLS care. I believe that shocked a few times, and all that was recorded on a body camera. And they were able to go through the process, get the patient to sign a release saying they're okay with this going out for the purpose of education. And now we're able to benefit from that because we saw a really high performing team do very critical skills and ultimately save this patient's life, which was super cool. Like, it's, you can scenario based or scenario train so many times. You could do, CPR on a mannequin so many times, but you really get to see like full picture and learn so much from just the footage alone.
Yeah, that was the one. Was that Parker Hospital District?
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure.
The one there's one on YouTube that we had watched.
Yeah, at the station. It was whatever that was. Yeah.
Not to beat a dead horse, but I want to point something out. So
Sure.
they posted that on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
With permission from that patient that they saved.
Right.
So this isn't just your run of the mill. Like, they decided to break,
Right.
HIPAA laws, and but that patient was super thankful that they
Mm-hmm.
saved her life. Fairly young too. I think she was
in her 40s. Yeah.
And she provided authorization for them to post that.
Right.
But there's other ones. We use Prodigy EMS
Mm-hmm.
as one of our learning tools.
Yeah.
And they have those case reviews on there as well.
Yeah, which is really interesting. And I mean, that's just a fantastic way to learn too. Like, they've got Dr. Handheavy on some of their podcasts that they they review footage, and it's just such a cool learning experience. It's so different than like the typical slideshow you see or scenarios that run you through. It's just such an interactive training to do, and you just learn a lot from it.
Yeah, I think this, again, in October, we're going to review that STEMI case. It was inferior wall case that I think you and Derek and Mason, there was a few people that were there, but that's a good one. And yeah, you're right. There's, we can, Jack, who does a lot of our education, or at least we try to get him there as much as we can because he's phenomenal. But there's a big difference between reviewing a PowerPoint and he's good. He just doesn't pull up a PowerPoint and review it. But huge difference between like you said, just simulating the best you can, or just sitting around talking about things. Now, we can really tune into what we do well and what we can improve upon.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. Because again, like we, it's not like a cockiness or an overconfident thing, but I know we provide pretty darn good care, and the fact that we have another tool in the toolbox to just continuously improve and advance things even further.
Right.
It's just awesome.
Yeah. So kind of shifting gears too, like along the patient care lines, like along that, we've been adding some more tools to our toolbox lately. Like, we just had we put into service new video laryngoscopes, kind of out of necessity, because I think the ones we had were they weren't manufacturing anymore, or they weren't making parts
discontinued, so it was going to be tough to get parts.
Yeah.
Or not tough, impossible.
Impossible. Yeah. So we have that. We just put in some IV nitro we invested in. We invested in a new software for narcotics tracking and administration. And then kind of looking towards the future, we've been in discussion of kind of things from a medical care and medical delivery standpoint we could invest in to provide better patient care. So I guess we could kind of talk about that. Like, what are some of the things you see in your experience coming down the pipeline to EMS, especially in this area, that would be beneficial, I guess?
Well, I think there's some. Well, first of all, we just the things that I know that are coming to us. We are upgrading our cardiac monitors.
Mm-hmm.
Our cardiac monitors and defibrillators. We have LifePak 15s now made by Stryker. We're keeping at least one of those, and we are purchasing LifePak 35s. That's like the new one.
Yep.
So those are exciting because there's some features that really are going to make a difference, and from a patient care perspective, and help us get as good of an outcome as we can, depending on the situation. So, so those are coming, and then in 2026, hopefully, we're planning on going through budget process now, but some pumps, some IV pumps, so that we can run the medications that really should be run through a pump. We can ensure that that's happening. We can really dial in on those treatments, and be super precise and even more safe than the way we do things now.
Yeah.
So that's huge, and there's some other equipment that I've written grant applications for. We'll see if that comes through. Yeah. But then just EMS as a whole, I'd be really super happy if we can figure out how to get a blood program in this area. For those that don't know, there's been really good success in resuscitating trauma victims who've had blood loss with whole blood. LifeNet of New York, our local helicopter service through Air Methods, the parent company, they carry whole blood. And so if we can get a helicopter to the scene of a serious trauma patient, serious trauma call, or could be certain medical calls with blood loss, then they can administer blood while en route to a trauma center. But it's expensive. The logistics are tough. You have to have an agreement with blood banks, and it's an equipment investment to ensure that it's being stored the right way. And so it's tough for rural areas to tackle that. And I think most of New York is just sort of in this wait and see mode.
Sure.
And which is frustrating because I feel like maybe we're sort of always in this wait and see mode.
We do seem to be kind of behind the ball. Like, there's agencies that are doing a lot of these things already, like blood administration.
North Carolina. Look at what North Carolina is doing. With the amount of blood that they're deploying in some of these, even the rural counties in North Carolina.
Right.
Yeah.
Jake Potter, who did the AMT class, used to work up this way. He's in Wake County now. And just some of the things his agency is doing is crazy. Like, I mean, things like
Wake County's always been progressive.
Yeah.
It's a good service.
I feel like as a whole, New York State has been kind of behind the ball a little bit on that. Like, it's been kind of waiting to see what other agencies do, and then a year or two later, maybe we'll look at bringing that in. But there's agencies now, like Ohio, where I'm from, they just added finger thoracostomies to their protocols, which is huge. People are doing, like, needle decompression is kind of our only intervention we can do now for pneumothorax and things along those lines, and especially for trauma patients. Even more of the high acuity calls we've had within the past few years, we've had patients that have immediately gotten chest tubes when they got to the hospital, and they've benefited from it greatly. And some patients
we had one recently, right? That
Right.
went to the local hospital.
Yeah.
Bilateral chest tubes and blood.
Yeah.
That was, so if you're talking about a patient that could have had that in the field and gotten to the trauma center sooner,
Right.
because of that particular incident, we couldn't get a helicopter.
Right.
The helicopter can't fly through bad weather. It's sort of, if you get hurt bad enough that you have to be flown to a trauma center, well, it's kind of luck of the draw depending on weather, right?
Right.
So if that particular patient could have had that sooner, they would have been to the trauma center sooner.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, and all these things really are, it takes a lot of interventions and a lot of people and a lot of moving parts to play in to saving someone's life, ultimately. A lot of hesitation, I think, for agencies is maybe like the cost of certain equipment or the cost of investment in training. But you can't really put a cost on a human life, right? It's like all these things, when they pull together, when we have things like better up-to-date protocols, more interventions we can do, like blood products, vents, pumps, all that kind of stuff, all that plays a part in making a difference in these patients, especially the critical ones like the one we were just talking about. So that's why I think it's neat to see as a country, like kind of the interventions that are coming down the pipeline for a lot of agencies. And it makes me really excited to see that stuff come up here.
I think whole blood. There's I kind of call them blood products in general, whether it's plasma.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit coming down the road here, and we'll see. If we can figure out a way, and certainly our department is we're gonna be as progressive as we can be within our means, and always try to make sure that we have the best resources and whatnot and the tools to take care of people. But boy, like for a county like ours, if you look at everybody's call volume and you look at the way things are structured, you could have one really good blood program takes care of the entire county, right? So if we're able to pool resources, and we haven't always been great at this, but if we can pool resources to make that happen, gosh, I mean, think about how much better off our mostly, typically, I think of whole blood, I think of trauma, but just these patients who are in need of blood, like we would be so much better off.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of laugh, like within like 2 days, I had 2 separate calls involving GI bleeds that these patients they needed blood like right now, and we just didn't have it. We've got normal saline. That's about the best we can do. On top of maybe like I got orders for TXA for both of them, but they were talking about like a life-threatening hemorrhage from a non-trauma situation, and they could have hugely benefited from blood. And that's I mean, we got
normal saline. Let's water down the blood.
I mean, we can do our best to maintain a normal map and and get them to the hospital quickly, where ultimately they both receive blood within 5-10 minutes of being there. But having that out in that field, I mean, would just greatly benefit these patients, trauma and non-trauma patients.
I think that's, to me, that's the biggest thing, because there's always these new meds or these new modalities or these new protocols and things. They don't always like, there's some things that you can point to and be like, does it really make a difference? Or at least people can like raise that argument. Super difficult to argue against blood, blood products, right?
Yeah,
because there's no doubt. I mean, if you look at where blood has been deployed by EMS in this country and look at the outcomes, like it's cut and dry, right? Like saving people who would have beforehand just bled out, right? And so if you have a trauma arrest patient on your next shift, we have to right. No, but like what's going to resuscitate them? They probably need blood.
Right.
Right.
That's at least going to help bridge the gap to getting them to a trauma center.
Right.
You know?
Right. But if they're to that point, like they need blood.
Right.
So to me, like that's the thing that's being done across the country, which is awesome. Would like to figure out how we can work on that in our area, probably as a collaborative approach. You know, but something that's exciting because you see the results and you know it makes a difference.
Right.
It's saving lives.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, we're getting to the point Lake George, before the town took over EMS in Lake George, I mean, Lake George Emergency Squad for a lot of years was one of the most progressive agencies out there. I mean, it really, if you go back decades, there was a lot of volunteers. Like Lake George volunteers were some of the first ALS providers, advanced life support providers in the area.
Which is funny.
Actually, it was them, and there was a couple different agencies, but Minerva, where I grew up, had some of the first ALS providers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's pictures of like those first classes, those critical care classes that were taught in the region. So what I was saying is that Lake George has always, I think, been progressive, and like we're continuing that. Like, you know, we're not getting things just to get them, and we're not going to buy things we're going to be good stewards of taxpayer money. That's important to me, but dang, like when our ambulance shows up and our crew shows up, like we're gonna take really good care of you. And we're gonna have the tools and the resources and the medications to do that.
Yeah, it's funny. We've got some of these providers that have really helped establish Lake George. One in particular is still working with us as a part-time paramedic. But some of his stories he shared of when they first rolled out like AM or ALS in this area is wild.
Yeah.
He's like, they had to learn pretty quick to do some pretty crazy stuff.
You're talking like 40 years ago.
Yeah, their EMT number starts with like a negative.
Yeah. So, you know.
That's wild.
I mean, to think, you know, gosh, I've been doing this for 27 years. Boy, the changes that we've had.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I know you got to get going here soon. Going on 222. I'll do this one last question. I know you got a EMS conference you're speaking at here soon.
Yeah, next week, the end of next week, actually Saturday of next week, I'll be doing a lecture at the EMS and Fire Pro Expo in Connecticut. It's out at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. So my plan is to get out there and interact with some people I haven't seen in a while, and they've got a huge vendor area there. They have like 180 vendors.
Sure. And
of course, there's education going on, and so I'll be taking in some of that on behalf of Town of Lake George EMS, and giving a lecture on Saturday morning, actually about body-worn cameras.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting. This episode might come out after all that, but catch them next year.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking. We're gonna have to do this again. There's a lot more to talk about and discuss.
I don't know that it has to be EMS either. I'm not that interesting of a guy, so EMS might be it. But
yeah, we'll see.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah, we'll do a non EMS themed one and see what happens.
Yeah,
might get published, might not. We'll see.
That's
but
right.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Again, this is the first recorded episode of the What's Going On podcast, so it's kind of exciting. But I'm sorry for any background noise. You might have heard our pagers going off a few times, and the microphones click and stuff. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. So Thanks for coming on, Travis. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.